If it's not going to be Lego, I'm glad it was Mega. These are the brand new Mega Construx Godzilla and Kong sets, and I am so excited to finally have them. Now, I'm usually a Lego guy, but I am a mega diehard fan of Godzilla and have been since the first time my tiny toddler eyes laid upon the atomic lizard. And how can anyone be a fan of Godzilla without having love for the legend himself, Kong? Fun fact, the original King Kong from 1933 was a huge inspiration for the original Godzilla from 1954, so without Kong, we may have never got Godzilla. In 2024, though, Godzilla x Kong is set to release, which is a sequel to 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong, and this is why these exist. As you can see, the new Godzilla x Kong logo right next to the Mega logo on both boxes. So on the outside, it seems much more like a promotional set for the movie and less like a collector's item, as opposed to the Mega Construx Xbox 360, which had a similar box to the real 360. Both the Mega Construx Godzilla and Kong retail for $49.99 each and come with almost the exact same piece count, with Godzilla coming in at 543 pieces and Kong coming in at 541 pieces. The boxes are also very similar, with both having almost the same size, with Godzilla being slightly thicker, and the designs are the exact same, with the only difference being the monster that's displayed. The only quirk I noticed, though, was the fact that it tells you Kong's height on the box, but tells you Godzilla's length on his. Like, why not do both the length and height for both? Why mix match? What if I want to know the width of Kong's shoulders or the height of Godzilla's spines? Is that classified information? But as we move from the outside and look inside the boxes, the unboxing experience is the same, with both sets having a cool clamshell style box that opens up to reveal the pieces and instructions. Once the boxes were open and the pieces were out, though, it was time to start building, and I started with Kong since I have a Godzilla bias and I personally like to save the best things for last. As I started to build Kong, though, I quickly ran into my first problem with this set.
Okay, so I'm in bag 1 and 2, steps 14, bro. If you put this piece on Kong right here, they want you to put another one right here. Watch. But the problem with that is that they hit each other. So if one is connected, the other one pops up. What? Scratch that. I didn't realize they were going up a level. He got a tummy. I'm either stupid or the instructions are confusing.
So after I realized my own mistake, I couldn't help but still be frustrated at how confusing these instructions can be. Like, for one, the colors are slightly off, and that sometimes makes it difficult deciphering which piece I'm looking for. Another thing I'm not a big fan of, but by no means affects the quality, is how the instructions don't show you the piece placed in the location it goes, but instead only has a map of indicators on where the pieces sit, which becomes confusing when they stack pieces and place them in the same location. I don't know why this throws me off so much, and to be fair, it's comparable to another language where it's not making sense to me at first, but I'm sure if I were to build more Mega Block sets, I would get used to it. I do believe, however, that this method could probably be beneficial to children, as it challenges them to really pay attention to what they're seeing, unlike Lego, which basically spells everything out for you. But at so many points in this build, I realized that I was putting pieces in the wrong place, and I would have to go back and fix my error, which became extremely tedious at times. Outside of that, though, Kong is really rewarding to build and looks even better in person, which we'll get to after we complete Godzilla. But before we get to Godzilla, I have to point out this waterfall. The slight frustration that I had with the instructions was immediately forgiven when I saw the pieces that make up the water on the waterfall. These are the prettiest pieces I have ever seen on anything. This marble-like translucent blue is so cool, and I have to give Mega some major praise for such a beautiful design. And if the budget needs to go to these types of colors for the pieces instead of the instructions, do that. By all means, do that. But moving on to building Godzilla, this set's instruction book also has color variations just like the Kong one, but this time it's not as bad because Godzilla is all gray. But I am quickly realizing that I wish that they distinguished their 2x5 plates from their 2x6 plates, because at first glance, they look exactly alike, and throughout both builds, I've interchanged them on accident multiple times. But once again, all of the complaints became irrelevant when I came across this very interesting building technique.
So we're only in step 13. This is step 1, though, of bag 2 and 3. And something just blew my mind. Check that out. See that little orange thing in there? Now, Lego has like these ball socket joints like Mega Bloks does here, but check that out. That orange thing, bro? That's a piece of rubber to add more friction within the ball joint. That is genius, bro.
As I got back to building, though, I started to notice a pattern more and more with Godzilla that I didn't get with Kong.
So I'm trying to put this section on this section, which then caused this to come off this section.
I don't know if this is a problem because of how I'm holding the sections when attempting to put them together, or maybe it's using too much force, but it definitely seems like the build is a little weaker structurally than Kong. And it may have something to do with the decisions that Mega made in order to have both sets have similar piece counts with the same price tag. However, the rest of the building process for Godzilla went really smooth, besides a few errors here or there on my part due to me still not being totally comfortable with the different instruction style. Which, speaking of instructions, it was at this point in all of it that I realized that the different colors with the indicators in the instructions are a map of where the pieces land that you're adding, which instantly gave me the key to understand the instructions a whole lot better. I swear I have ADHD, but I don't know, and that's probably why it took me that long to figure that out. But with both figures done, the only thing I felt was complete satisfaction. Both Godzilla and Kong look fantastic, and I am so glad that these things exist. Now, I have to be honest and admit that neither set is perfect, and there are a couple of things that I wish were improved upon before release. But before we get into the good and bad of Godzilla and Kong, I want to show you the really cool side builds that come with these guys. Now, I already showed you Kong's waterfall, but I still need to show you his axe. That's right, the axe made of Godzilla's spines that he had in Godzilla vs. Kong is here and fits perfectly into Kong's hand. It even has these side studs that keep it from slipping from his grip, which is awesome when you're moving him. And for Godzilla, he comes with his iconic atomic breath, which looks phenomenal and doesn't weigh down his head when it's in his mouth. You can pose him however you want. Godzilla also comes with this building that has the Monarch logo, a helicopter pad, and half of it falls over. There are also tiles that look like roads, which really takes this model up another level. So with the side builds out of the way, now let's return back to Kong and Godzilla individually to talk the good and bad of each. Starting with Kong, I really only have good things to say about him. He is extremely posable with basically every joint you'd expect being able to move. I personally love his tiny toes, which by the way, he does have 5 fingers and 5 toes. Kong is also packed full of details with scratches on his chest and exposed technology on his Infinity Gauntlet. And now is a good time to mention that both Kong and Godzilla, with their side builds, all have entirely printed pieces. There is not one sticker in this entire Mega Block set, which is a major mega W. And speaking of Godzilla, I mostly love everything about him except his extreme case of stiff neck. I'm being serious when I say this man's neck does not move. I really wish they had added one more joint underneath his giant side plate in order to give his head a little bit of up and down movement. It wouldn't even need to be a whole lot, but just enough to solve that neck brace look. I also wish that they didn't have to block the tail from being able to sway from side to side, but as you can see here, if you try to move the tail to the side, you knock off the block from the section before. Just a very weird design decision. And Godzilla does in fact have one minor design flaw. As I was putting Godzilla together, I noticed that they had this pink spike rubber thing, which I knew was part of his tail only because of this Godzilla X Kong action figure that I had found. And at first, I thought it was an awesome design feature, and I loved that it was rubber, until I put it on his tail. As you can see, his tail has a full-on gap in between these pieces right there, and if I lift up to try to pose his tail, you'll see it literally is not connected fully because the rubber blocks the pieces from connecting completely. In theory, the design feature is awesome. In practice, however, it diminishes the secure fit of the pieces, which makes me think that the tail might be easy to lose, and that freaks me out. Outside of those two complaints though, Godzilla is just as sturdy and posable as Kong, except for his fingers and toes, unfortunately. Unlike Kong, those are not posable, but they do look good. I, for one, love the pink spikes. Mature and seasoned Godzilla fans will know that Godzilla spikes have taken on different colors throughout the franchise, and to me, the pink is really fitting to the whole aesthetic of the colorful neon world building within the Monsterverse. But to close out with my final thoughts, I have to admit that every time I build a Mega set, I gain more and more appreciation for them. Both the Mega Construx Godzilla and Kong are phenomenal models and really fun builds. With their action figure-like joint movement, sturdy build, and unique side builds, I have no doubt lots of kids would have a blast creating their own adventures with these sets. I can also confidently say that if I were to get these sets as a kid, they would have definitely been my favorite toys to play with. And as an adult, I can say that these sets bring me a lot of joy knowing that Godzilla has finally got to the point of mainstream recognition that he deserves. While I understand that $50 each is pretty steep of a price tag, I have to point out that these will definitely withstand years of play from kids and are definitely a unique collector's item. I love the way these guys look on my Godzilla shelf, and I hope Mega can continue to make some more Godzilla themed sets in the future.